Hello folks, I wanted to show you something that I find a bit strange about American showers, and I didn't really know what to think of it when I first saw them. So in a UK shower, usually you would have like two taps connected in the middle if it was one combined with a bath, and then there would be a plunger in the top here, so you would mix the water you wanted, both pressure and temperature, and then you would pull the plunger to allow the water to travel up the pipe and come out the top at the shower. Now, the first American shower that I found looked a bit like this, except it had one big round tap knob in the middle. And on the American showers, you don't regulate pressure, you only regulate temperature. Okay, so the pressure is already preset. So you just turn the knob and it just gets gradually hotter the more you turn it, okay? So that's how it works. But then in the first place I went, in San Diego, there was, at the bath tap, there was a little plunger. You pull the little plunger and then that would come out at the shower. In Colorado, there was also sort of a plastic knob on the shower that again you turn to regulate the temperature. But that one I actually had to ask one of my American colleagues because I couldn't work out where the plunger was. There was no plunger on the tap, and he said what you do is you pull the whole arrangement off the wall, and so that's what I did. I gave it a pull, and that's what allowed the water to come out the shower head at the top. Really weird. And then now I'm in Illinois.
Illinois Nazis. I hate Illinois Nazis.
And we've got, again, a very similar setup, except this time it's got a big handle on it. Again, you turn to start the water from going, and it starts cold and it gets gradually hotter. But I couldn't work out where the plunger was because, again, there's no plunger on the top of the tap. So I was looking around here. I started pulling on this because that's how it was in Colorado. But pulling on this did nothing except move the wall. Then I found this collar here moves backwards and forwards. So I was moving this collar, turning it, but no, it's not that either. So I had a look at the tap itself, and I noticed how flat the top of this tap was, and I thought, oh, maybe this is some kind of handle. So I started twisting the tap like this, and unfortunately that wasn't it either, and I was worried I was going to unscrew this tap from the wall, or the spout, sorry. So I was about to give up when I noticed that this thing here is a little bit loose, and then I pulled on this like that, and that's the plunger. It's hidden inside the outlet for the water. That is absolutely crazy. Every one of these I visit in every state seems to be just slightly different. The all similar theme of this single rotating dial, but the plungers are hidden in the most unusual places. Just wanted to talk to you a little bit about something strange that happens in America, which is people talk to you. It's like living back in a little quaint little English village where you're standing at a bus stop and someone just sort of strikes up conversation with you. But you get that, or you seem to get that, everywhere you go in the States, or at least all the places I've been so far. I'm in Illinois right now, and I was just in a gentleman's toilet in a Shell service station, and I was washing some of the glass jars that Giovanni gets his food in. Anyway, so I was in there with a scrubbing brush and some soap washing this mason jar, and there was a guy came into the toilet to do his business, and when he went to the sink I had to stand away from the sink so he could use the sink, and he said, "I've never seen anybody washing a mason jar in a men's toilet before," and I said, "No, neither have I." And we just started this conversation about what I was doing and why I was doing it and about the bike ride and everything, and it was really weird because every other country I've been to, you would never strike up a conversation in a public toilet. Certainly not a men's toilet. You know, usually men are kind of worried that if somebody's talking to them in a men's toilet, somebody's trying to pick you up or something. Usually we keep our backs to the wall and we don't make eye contact, you know. Find a happy place. Find a happy place. Not even a nod, you know, that's it. We're just doing our business and we're leaving. So that's the funny thing about America. Everyone's really talkative, everyone's really interested to know your story and where you're going and what you're doing, and it's really nice. I appreciate it. It's nice to have these little conversations. There you go, just something that I noticed about my trip here. This is so American. So we've got a pharmacy, a chiropractor, some kind of supplement place, nutrition, physical therapy, and a massive sign for personal injury lawyers. What I find fascinating about America is chiropractic doctors or whatever are actually considered real doctors here.
I'm going to send you to my chiropractor.
Hey, I thought real doctors hated chiropractors.
Whereas in the rest of the world they are lumped in with fortune tellers and other such hocus pocus, which I find very amusing. But yeah, chiropractors are like given huge amounts of credibility here in America, even though it was like invented by some insane person who thought that ghosts were talking to them and telling them how to fix people's back pain. Absolutely unbelievable if you actually read into it. There you go. It's like literally Scientology for backache. Here's another thing I don't get about the US. They might have the worst plug system on the planet. Now, obviously, there are other countries using a similar system to the US, but you know, that system is the worst. Even the European plug with the 2 round prongs is better than this. And that's for several reasons. So this is a British plug, and there are actually American electricians on YouTube who absolutely love this thing and say that America should switch to it. And I totally agree. This is a much better invention than the American plug. Look how sturdy and solid this thing is. If you notice here, just at the base here, we actually have insulation on this. So as you push it into the socket on the wall, the moment that those contacts actually reach the electric, they're completely insulated. So even if you stick your finger down there, you can't get electrocuted. And look how solid that is. The entire weight of this splitter that I've got here is hanging off this British plug, and it's completely solid in there. Like there's no gap at all. Whereas the American one, with these 2 thin little flanges on, it just hangs. And they all do this, no matter how good or new these plugs are. None of them have ever gripped the thing. And now we've got 2 exposed electrical contacts there, which is not particularly good. Now, the design of this thing is kind of silly, because like with the round European style one, so the 2 round pins, that's actually a lot more stable. And so those things don't hang quite as badly because you know, it's a round peg in a round hole. But with these slits, there's loads of play in them. So like I say, they just don't hang in there. They constantly want to drop out the wall. And some places I've been, I literally cannot put this thing on the wall because it just falls out. British plug, no issue there. Another issue with this thing is, why on earth have they stacked them like this? All the other plugs I've seen in the world, Europe, Russia, North Africa, the Americas now, Southeast Asia, thank goodness Brunei used the British standard, they put this thing horizontally, not vertically. So this is vertical. So if I stick it in here, now I can't use the other plug. Isn't that ridiculous? And obviously most plugs like have the wire coming out the bottom. So if I was to attempt to attach another one here, oh no, I can't because the wire's in the way. There is only one thing actually I can say in favor of the American plug, and that is this. If I was walking by and there was a cable trailing along the floor and I snagged it with my foot, it would fall out the wall, which is good because potentially I wouldn't trip over the cable. Whereas with the British plug, because they're so solid in there, if you trip over a cable in a British house, you're going to fall because there's no way you're pulling out the British plug. Also, our plugs are fused as well, I believe. And we also have trap doors on our sockets. So again, you can't jam things in there like pieces of metal and stuff, whereas there's no trap door on the American ones. They're just open electrical contacts again. So you hear these stories of American kids putting like forks and things in there, which you just can't do with a British one. The other thing, of course, like if I pull this off for a second, if we look at the British one versus the American one, these are quite wide. So if I stand on that, that's going to be very painful. Okay, this is going to be very painful, but I'm spreading the load of my foot between 3 different points of contact that are quite wide. If you look at this, like if you have a head like this and it's lying upright like that, those are very thin. There's very little surface area. That's going straight in your foot. I mean, that's going all the way through. Whereas this is going to hurt like hell. But I don't think that's going in you. This is not going to go in you. This is going to go in you. Yeah. There you go. Sorry, that's enough. Alright, I've done enough. I've said enough. Brilliant. Here's something else that I find unusual about the US. So you got a lot of freedom here with driving. You can actually turn right on a red light. And another thing you can do is, you see this pedestrian crossing here, even if that was go right now, which in the US is a white man walking across the road, you know, a white guy, right, telling you what to do, you can actually turn across the crosswalk while the pedestrian light is still good. Like, it's like the white man's still there, the number's still counting down, and you've got cars trying to turn in because they're allowed to go even when the crossing's on. Which is weird, because in Europe and everywhere else I've been in the world, you can't do that. You have to wait while the crossing light is on. But in America, you can go right through the crossing when people are crossing, which is strange. Also in America, unlike the rest of the world, they use a hand for stop instead of a red guy, and instead of a green guy, they use the white guy. There he is, look. So people are going to cross now, and then cars from this side are still going to turn across. Watch this white one here. See, people are crossing, the man's still good, but the car's going to go right through. How weird is that? So, here is something else strange about America. I'm waiting in a hotel for someone else to pay for my room online. I've had to give them cash, because many businesses in America do not accept American currency. It turns out that the US dollar is so worthless that most businesses won't even touch it, and in fact what they want is imaginary digital money transferred directly to their accounts. Now the problem here is that all of my credit cards, well, I don't have credit cards, all of my bank cards that I have from Brunei don't work in America, because there's 2 different systems, MasterCard and Visa, and I believe one of those systems, the bank has to know the business that you are trying to buy from in order for your card to work. And because my Bruneian bank does not directly have a relationship with all these US businesses, my card doesn't work. Like, I've got tons of money in there, but nothing works. So then I go, okay, well, no problem, here's some cash. And they're like, sorry, dude, we don't accept cash.
How about this? I have cash. You have tea. Why don't we just streamline things?
We don't take cash, though.
Yeah.
So there you go. If you come to America, be careful, because the US dollar isn't currency here. You know, it only works out in the sticks. Strange world we live in. Anyway, there you go. That's another funny thing about the US. See you later. Here I am in New York in my hotel room, 35 stories up. This building is 40 stories high, so I'm pretty high up. And I have another thing which is interesting or strange about America, and that is tipping.
I don't tip.
You don't tip?
No, I don't believe in it.
You don't believe in tipping?
So yeah, tipping. I'm supposed to tip the waitress that serves me dinner for maybe 30 minutes to an hour, right? So she brings my plate to the table, and for that she deserves a tip. But I don't tip the air hostess who serves me several meals over a 16-hour-long flight. Isn't that weird? I mean, to me, the whole thing of tipping is strange anyway. I just think, you know, pay people their wages and let that be the end of it. You know, when I come in and the menu says something costs $20, I pay $20 and I walk out. Surely that's how it should work. But okay, so here, you know, you're supposed to tip after the meal, a certain percentage of the total. But still, why don't I tip the air hostess? Nobody tips air hostesses, but they served me for 16 hours on the flight here into America, and yet the waitress who probably comes to my table a couple of minutes over a 30-minute period I'm supposed to give her a tip. Weird, isn't it? Now, granted, the air hostess probably makes more money, but is that the reason? You know, what happens if there's a waitress who works in a very fancy restaurant, she gets a better wage than someone who works in a not so fancy restaurant? Also, we don't tip people who work in McDonald's or fast food restaurants or cafes, you know, who serve cold sandwiches. Why not? Why do you only tip one particular type of worker? I've never understood this. It's a weird thing about America and tipping. There you go. But anyway, great view. I'm going to go and try and find myself something to eat now. See you. Here's another thing I find strange about America. It's their coins. Here we have a 1 cent coin, which is fairly self-explanatory. That's obviously like a 1 penny type thing. But then this one here is 1 dime. Okay. Now, America is the only country that I've been to, only country I've ever been to that doesn't put numbers on their coins. So this is a 1 dime. I think that's 10 cents. But I have to remember that, because on any other country I've been to, they just put a number. They just put 10, 5, 25, whatever. So, yeah, that's weird. And then this one is a quarter. Now, that kind of makes sense. When something's a quarter of something, I imagine it's a quarter of a dollar, so therefore it must be 25 cents. But again, I have to do kind of a calculation in my head, kind of work that out. Whereas if you just put 25 on something, instead of putting quarter dollar, it would be a lot easier for foreign people such as myself. Because obviously everybody knows what a quarter is, or what a dime is, or what a nickel is. A nickel? How much is a nickel? Why not call it a zinc? It's nickel. Nickel is a type of metal. It's not a measurement of something. It's very strange. And then the other thing that's odd about American coins is if I turn this coin the right way up, okay, so we've got the eagle showing, okay, and then I flip it over, the head is upside down. That's the only coin of any country I've ever been to where the head on the coin is upside down in comparison with the image on the back. Yeah? You'd have to turn it sideways to make any sense out of it. Now, in England, if the Queen's head is like this and you flip the coin over, the other image on the other side is the right way up. In America, it's upside down. Okay, just to be gratuitous in my emphasis on this point, here are some Bruneian coins. If I flip these over with the Sultan's head the right way up, as you can see, the images are also the right way up. Same for these English ones here, pounds. Shield is the right way up. Gate is the right way up. Dude on a horse for the euros here. Coin is the right way up. Brandenburg Gate. Coin is the right way up. These ones for these Arabic coins from UAE. Same again, the writing and the number is the correct way around when you flip them over. Turkish lira, flip those over, images are the correct way up. And then American coins, 2 heads facing the right way up. Eagle is upside down. Building is upside down. So there you go. Explain that, folks. Strange, right? I don't know. There you go. American coins. Very weird. Alright, folks, I'm back in Brunei and I thought of one more thing that I failed to mention while I was in America, so I'll do it now. And that is one of the weird things about American driving. There's lots of things that are weird about American driving and American vehicles, but the one that stuck out the most to me was that all the indicator lights on the American cars were red. So you've got your running lights on your car, when you switch your headlights on the rear of the vehicle, which are red. You've got your brake lights, which are red. And then in pretty much every country in the world, except North America, your indicators or your signal lights are amber or yellow. In America, they're also red. And this causes confusion. I've read some studies that say it adds at least an additional 5% to their road accidents every year. So there you go, just a weird fact. I know there's historical reasons why they have those lights, but it just seems like they should be changing over to the amber system by now. But like I say, it's obviously a slow transition with all the old American vehicles out there and all the American companies that are continuing to put red lights on the rear of their vehicle instead of amber ones. But there you go. So that is another weird thing about America. I could continue, but I think I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope the American viewers are not too offended by my observations. They are just observations, you know, stuff I saw that surprised, intrigued, and confused me while I was in America. So there you go, folks. Thank you for watching, as always, and hopefully the next video will be a bit more bicycle related. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.